Hey guys, I hope you're doing well today. It's just a quick video to let you know of all the changes that you may or may not know that happened at World's Strongest Man this year. So a couple of bits of information that I wanted to share with everyone, and I was going to run through the events. So I want to start by saying that I thought this year's competition went really well. Obviously lots of changes had to be made at the last minute, not only to the date when the actual show was going to take place, which originally was back in April-May time, but also the events. So let's go through some of those events now. So event 1 in the finals, I'm going to just do the finals today, was a giant medley. And you may have seen an awful lot of videos of athletes doing a farmer's walk into a yoke or a yoke into a farmer's walk. That's the events that they were told was going to be making up that medley. And when they got to Bradenton, obviously a few changes were made, and it became an anvil load into a yoke. So that's the first change. They've actually swapped out a farmer's for an anvil, something that no one had practiced. Guys don't generally have an anvil to hand. I don't know if they do, but I don't think they do. And so that was obviously a bit of a surprise to them. Now the anvil weighed in at 125 kilos or 275 pounds, and all the athletes had to lift that anvil onto a giant tyre. So that's the first element of the medley. Then we move on to the second part of the medley, which is where they have to run around the front of a super yoke and take it down, I think it's 25 metres. So they've got a bit of a run to go with what was a weight of 454 kilos or 1,000 pounds. So not a lightweight, obviously that's fine, but originally that weight was actually set at 500 kilos or 1,102 pounds. So it does beg the question, why did World's Strongest Man reduce down the weight of the yoke? Did they think that the guys had obviously struggled because they hadn't had that break? Obviously, remember, they had the storm there with the hurricane, so they lost a day and they had to condense down the show. So maybe that affected some of the weights that you're going to hear about now. So technically making the final a little bit easier for some guys than it would have been. Event number 2, the 18-inch deadlift. No problems there, it is what it was. Some people called it a silver dollar deadlift. In my opinion, that's slightly different. There are some cages that hang either side of the bar. You get a lot more whip with that kind of a pull. And with the 18-inch, it's pulled from 18 inches. Not on an axle bar, generally done on a standard bar. I don't know if it was a deadlift bar in this particular instance, but probably not. And that was absolutely fine. And Alexei Novikov came off with the win and what they classed as the world record for that particular setup. So moving on to event 3, the keg toss. The kegs, there were 8 kegs ranging from 18 kilos or 39 pounds all the way up to 25 kilos or 55 pounds. So that is the standard sort of keg run that you'll find at any World's Strongest Man. But what you might not know is that originally the height of the bar that they have to throw these kegs over was 5 metres. And that actually got reduced down to 4 metres 57 centimetres. So I'm, again, not quite sure why they lowered the height of the keg event. Maybe because it's going to favour people like Brian Shaw being the taller athlete. And it gave everyone a fighting chance if it was less of a height issue and more of a speed and technique issue, because most athletes, if they're going to mess up in the finals, it will be on something like the keg toss where they just don't get the keg over the top of that bar. Okay, so moving on to event 4, the Hercules hold. That was 160 kilos or 352 pounds in each hand. The guys obviously were timed to hold on to those pillars for as long as possible. And some information you may or may not know already, Mark Felix did not break his official world record. I believe his time fell somewhere just over 40 seconds. So better luck next time, Mark, but he's definitely capable of doing it. We've seen it many, many times. And whilst we're on the subject of the Hercules hold, I really do think Magnus Ver Magnusson, now he's had a knee operation and he's recovered, should also definitely get a crack at that record. He did awesome at the Giants Live show where he had a go. He had the second longest time. Although it was a slightly different setup for him, I still feel he could challenge for that world record also. Okay, so next up, we're on to event 5, the log ladder. That's another event with another change. Now, obviously, you guys are aware it was 5 logs weighing from 131 kilos or 288 pounds all the way up to 182.5 kilos or 402 pounds. Absolutely no issues with that weight. I think anything over 180 is definitely a decent weight to have, especially after all the other events and the heats and the fact that that is log number 5. But what it was originally set at was 4 logs, and those ranged from 140 kilos or 308 pounds up to 200 kilos or 441 pounds. Now what you've got to remember is this is a TV show of a strongman competition. So the TV element comes first. Now if you think about it, Graham Hicks, one of the strongest pressers in the final, tore his bicep on the first event, so he was out. And if you look at the remaining athletes, there may only be a handful of guys able to press that fourth log, which was weighing in at 200 kilos. So I think it was a TV decision there to take out the heavier log, add in another lighter log, so that everyone has a fighter's chance of getting all the logs, so it looks good for television, but also there's still enough challenge in there so that the guys don't feel it's too light. Although you could say that the first 2 logs probably were too light, but what can you do? You've got to make up a medley or a log ladder as such. So that's what they did. Moving on from that, you have the Atlas Stones, event number 6, the final event, and there were some rumours it was going to be double points. Now in the past it has been double points on stones, and for someone like Tom Stoltman, he probably would have won World's Strongest Man if they did change that rule. But as far as I'm aware they didn't, and it was only same points as it was for all the other events, and it was 5 stones ranging from 150 kilos or 330 pounds up to 210 kilos or 485 pounds. Now I'm really happy that this year and possibly last year from memory they've upped that final stone. The guys were just, 200 kilos is now too light for these guys. They're too strong. So 210 is definitely in the right direction, and I wouldn't knock 220 off of next year. Definitely make it more hard for the guys. If they did 8 stones in the heats, why can't they do 8 stones in the final? A real sort of way of breaking up the field, especially in that last event where everyone's desperate to get as many points as possible, and it would be a great finale to what was a really great World's Strongest Man. So that's my information that I felt you guys may or may not know. Let me know in the comments below if you knew about any of this stuff, or if any of this information was new to you. So that's it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And you guys know the rest. I'll catch you on the next one.
Let's go, Trey! Come on!
This is for the title, Trey. Let's do it.
Come on, Trey! Another boy, Trey! Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah.
We're up there.
Oh, Trey!
Yeah!
Trey. Oh, here we go.
Come on, Trey.
Yeah, one minute,
Oh, yeah. Amazing.